Hey guys, how's it going? This is Kevin Asani, and this is the Progressive Square, where everybody gets to state their progressive opinions and talk about any issues that you feel necessary to put out there. I'm here to listen. I'm going to be interacting with you guys on Periscope. I'm going to be interacting with you guys on Facebook. Just like last week, I got a little bit of a late start this time, preparing for the show, but I'm glad to be here and hope you guys are going to tune in and watch this week's episode. So, just a reminder for my Facebook fam over there, I am not going to be able to have better quality sound. I didn't have very good sound when I did the show last week. I'm trying to kind of figure out that technical issue at the moment. So I think I should have it figured out by next week. And hopefully you guys can hear me on Periscope. And I'm also broadcasting on camera here for separate segments, which I would be posting on YouTube and Facebook, and also promoting on Twitter, which I've been doing. So with all that being said, let's get to the news. So not really any major news, I guess, as many of you know. Joe Biden is running for president. He has pretty much gone through, I believe it's his first week of essentially being a candidate. And he, I think for the most part, has had a decent, I would say actually probably a pretty favorable start so far, especially when it comes to media coverage of him. The media coverage is just, typically fawning as always. That never really changes, as is the case with, with most establishment candidates. He, however, at least behind closed doors, has been doing a lot of interesting activities. So let's get to one of those things that he's been doing. So following his latest launch for president, he immediately went and did a fundraiser with corporate lobbyists and GOP donors, which is very interesting. And he obviously didn't put it out there for everybody to know. But people out there obviously did their investigative reporting and found those things out. And one of those reporters is Lee Fang. He writes for The Intercept. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say his last name, but he is a great reporter, a great journalist, and he uncovered some interesting information about how he is actually doing, or did, a fundraiser with the head of, or I'm sorry, not the head, but one of the executives from Comcast, which is the parent company of MSNBC. And they have been for many years now. And they, obviously during the 2016 elections, the primaries and whatnot, they gave a lot of favorable coverage to Hillary Clinton. They gave, or have given, obviously, Donald Trump a lot of unfavorable coverage. They have been very biased in favor of, the establishment. They've been pushing a lot of the Russiagate narrative. They've been pushing I would say a decent amount of anti-Bernie coverage, depending on which show you watch. If you watch somebody like, Joy-Ann Reid or something like that, yeah, for sure you're going to get a lot of anti-Bernie coverage. A lot of the guests certainly have been going on and bashing Bernie. So naturally, it makes sense for them to be on Team Biden now. And with their presence being felt on Team Biden, they're obviously going to have executives who are going to go out there and say that they're going to be in favor of somebody like Joe Biden. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of this article from The Intercept by Li Fong, he talks about how, so in this is the beginning of the article. It says, over the last few months, David Cohen, a Comcast executive who oversees the telecom giant's lobbying operation, has cut big checks to Republican candidates while pushing to advance his company's regulatory agenda. On Thursday afternoon, however, Cohen will open his Philadelphia home to host Joe Biden, helping the Democratic former Vice President kick off his bid for the White House. Biden, who announced his bid for the Democratic presidential nomination Thursday morning, has depicted himself as the party's standard bearer, but he's planning to roll out his campaign at an event filled with others like Cohen, namely GOP donors and corporate lobbyists. I don't know where the part about him being an MSNBC executive. I'm sorry, a Comcast executive. Did I read that? Yeah, David Cohen. So he's a Comcast executive. So and one thing I should note here that is really, really important is Comcast, they have consistently been on against the side on the other side of net neutrality. So they have actually lobbied against net neutrality. And they have said they have been in clear opposition to it. And how convenient is it that one of the people that is going, in favor, kind of coming out in favor of Joe Biden, or at least in this case, certainly one of the top candidates in Joe Biden, not just, he's not going up, he's not, backing Buttigieg, or he's not backing Beto O'Rourke or, Kamala Harris. He's going after one of the, as Fong's article mentioned, one of the standard bearers. And so it's very convenient that that's happening. And net neutrality is a big deal for leftists in this country, for free speech advocates, for people that are, even Barack Obama, when he was president, was pushing for net neutrality. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if there is a Comcast executive coming out and fundraising for Biden, he's going to be pushing ideas that are going to be, essentially going against net neutrality, going against raising taxes on the rich, not, obviously taking money out of politics, the usual. That stuff is expected. But the net neutrality one is big. And I guarantee you Biden is going to come out at some point and be like, net neutrality is not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. It's okay to not give certain websites and certain let's say news outlets and stuff, don't give them as much opportunity to play on the same playing field as everybody else. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if that happened. So don't be surprised if that happens. And the kind of the telecommunication industry, which includes Comcast, it includes Viacom, it includes, I believe, News Corp as well. Well, their parent company is 20th Century Fox, so Fox essentially. Those kind of companies will definitely be coming out in favor of certain candidates and many Democrats too. So here's to that point, here's another line from the beginning of Fong's article. He says, like other Democratic candidates, Biden is launching his presidential bid with a pledge to reject federal lobbyist cash. But the lobbyists attending his Thursday fundraiser are either unregistered or registered with state entities, not the federal system. See how convenient that is? So they're skirting those kind of regulations, or in this case, not regulations, but they're kind of skirting those standards and saying, oh no, we're not taking any lobbyist money. But those are just happen to be the lobbyists that are not registered under the federal system. They're unregistered, and if they are registered, they're registered with the state. So I guess they would probably be, within that certain state. In this case, I guess, Pennsylvania. I think that's where Comcast headquarters is. So, so they, that stuff is going to be disclosed. But when it comes to, certain candidates taking that money, that's how they're going to rationalize it. Fong continues by saying, as The Intercept previously reported, Democratic contenders Beto O'Rourke, Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker have all leveraged the same loophole to collect cash from corporate interests while pledging to eschew funding from federal lobbyists. So yeah, it's very, very convenient how they're not trying to get the federal lobbyists, and they're specifically avoiding those because they want to act like that, because that's going to be a little bit more well known. It's going to be a little bit more public if it's the federal lobbyists. But if it's the private lobbyists, that people aren't going to focus on that much. The media certainly isn't going to cover it as much either. Not that they really give a shit about, lobbying and kind of corporate bought, politicians basically. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting to see that. And, we talked about Joe Biden obviously last week, following his declaring that he's going to run and everything. And his record ever since I did the show, and ever since he declared he's running for president, I've seen a lot of people posting videos of how he's said, made all these ridiculous statements over the years. Walker Bragman, who's one of my followers and somebody I follow on Twitter, he posts a lot of good clips. He's just one of many, but there was this other account, I forgot the exact the handle of the account, but they were posting, both of those accounts were posting a lot of interesting videos from Joe Biden from, I think, the 90s and 2000s and stuff. There's the kind of this famous video where he says, I have no sympathy or something for millennials, so the people that are dealing with so people in my generation who have been dealing with, and many are still dealing with, student loan debt. He says he has no sympathy for them. Don't come crying to me. Basically, I have nothing to say to you. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Like Biden's mentality when it comes to addressing specific issues, especially the issues that you would think people would care about. I mean, the guy just doesn't give a shit. And he likes to talk like tough and, act like he's some sort of straight shooting, politician, acting like he's Trump or something. And in many ways he is like Trump, but obviously in a bad way because Trump's already horrible. But, he likes to be like that. And then, but he does that and he masks, he kind of uses that as like a curveball for people to act like he's some sort of, straight shooting, say it how it is kind of politician. But in reality, he's just a bullshitter, and he's an opportunist, and a lot of the things he's going to say is going to be acting like he's straight shooting, but he's really going to be catering to the elite and to the, in this case, private lobbyists and big donors and stuff. He, like we mentioned on our last episode, he did outraise Bernie Sanders. He did outraise Beto O'Rourke, but I guarantee you, based on the number of donations that he got, which was, I think, like under 100,000, somewhere around 100,000 or so, because the figures seem to be, they seem to be kind of, there's different, different stories coming out about what his official number was. I heard the official number to be 96,000, but then one of his people came out and said, no, it's 107,000 because of donations online. So the numbers just don't make sense. And I posted about this. This was Simone Sanders, who's, I believe, his press secretary or something, working for him now, kind of his spokesperson basically, and she posted about that, and just the numbers just didn't make any sense. So I mean, I don't know if you saw that on Twitter or not, her posting about that on her Twitter, tweeting about it. But yeah, I responded. I was like, this just doesn't make any sense. These figures are completely inconsistent with what the initial findings came out as far as what the news reports and stuff said. Anyway, so but based on the fact that he got the number of donors basically that he got, I mean, it's obvious that he just got a bunch of money from really big donors, people that were giving him money in the kind of $2,700, which is the max you're allowed to give. He definitely did that for sure. And so he, there's a lot of people that definitely maxed out their donations, whereas, majority of Bernie's donors, they all give under $200 $200. So $200, which is, as we pointed out last week, going over $200, that's when you are getting into the kind of the bracket of, bigger donations compared to being under $200, which is considered a small donation. So majority of Bernie's donors are definitely small donors, and much more than a majority. I mean, I would say most of the candidates, certainly the ones that have a bigger amount of money, were raised a much bigger amount of money. They probably have majority of their donors being small donors, but you also have to consider how much money came from bigger donors. So the amount of money that came from bigger donors compared to the number of donors that gave money, under, for example, under $200 compared to, so if you're like a millionaire and you're going to be giving $2,700, millionaire or billionaire, you're going to give a candidate $2,700 an hour. You are going to also recruit, and I think they did this. I think Beto O'Rourke also did this. That millionaire or billionaire is going to recruit a bunch of his family members, and he's going to recruit a bunch of his cousins and friends and fellow lobbyist buddies to also give more than $2,700. I'm sorry, give $2,700 per donation. So it's going to be all that money is going to pile up. So the more people that can give that, the better it is, and for that person. And that's you don't need as many donors. You just need more. You just need more money from those specific donors. So it's really interesting how these candidates try to pretend like they're grassroots and pretend like they're like they're doing kind of everything in the same way that Bernie Sanders does it, or Tulsi Gabbard does it, or Mike Gravel does it. They're not. Those three that I just mentioned are the people that are actually raising money from small donors and are doing it. They're proudly doing it, and they're happy to put their numbers out there. They're happy to show that to everybody. And while people, like Biden, Booker, O'Rourke, Harris, Buttigieg, who if we have time, we're going to be able to talk about how he's also raising money. Pete Buttigieg is raising money from DC lobbyists now, which is crazy. But so when it comes to Biden, though, he's just, I just don't trust that guy. And there's nothing that he, unless he's going to just like all of a sudden like, stave off like all these big money donors and like completely change his rhetoric, there's no way any progressive is going to vote for him. Now, when it comes to voting for Trump, voting for Biden, if he ends up facing Trump in the primary, that's also another question. But majority of people on the left will do that just because they don't want Trump. But at the same time, you definitely cannot rely on that. That's damn sure. So, I wouldn't even, at this point, if you were to ask me right now, would I vote for Biden? Would I vote for Biden over Trump? I wouldn't. I can't tell you that right now. And like I said, if his rhetoric changes and, he can actually say something that's believable, then maybe. But even then, it's going to be a stretch. So I thought that was a pretty interesting article. I'm not going to go through all of it, but it basically just details a lot of the lobbyists that have been, kind of raising money for Biden. Apparently, it's one of them. They were former lobbyists for. It says. It says Biden's has long since been close to lobbyists. He's coordinated his former chief of staff. So he's being coordinated by his former chief of staff, who's also his former chief of staff who's managing kind of the money he takes in and stuff from lobbyists. That guy is also a former lobbyist, no longer a lobbyist. But that guy's also, he's trying to help Biden, get ahead in the money game essentially here. So it says the Biden for President Host Committee includes Kenneth Jareen, a lobbyist with Ballard Spahr, who is registered to work on behalf of toll road operator Conduent and several healthcare interests. Jareen or Jaron, however you say his name, is a major donor to both parties and has given to political action committees controlled by former Republican House Speakers Paul Ryan and John Boehner. See, that makes no sense. How the hell are you a Democrat if you're taking money from the donors who have given to the Republican Party? So all these people that like smear Bernie Sanders as being like, oh, well, he's not a real Democrat and he's catering to the Republicans and he's catering to whatever, to Fox News or whatever, even though a lot of other candidates go on Fox News too. At the same time, these lobbyists are giving money to these Democrats and nobody says anything. Why? Because the media doesn't cover the fact that Republican donors, Republican lobbyists give money to Democrats. And Democrats probably give, I'm sure, I don't know if it's a big chunk of them, but I mean, I don't know if like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates gives money, because those people are big Democratic donors. I don't know if they give money to Republicans, but I mean, this is just in the case of lobbyists. But yeah, I mean, but at the same, it's amazing how desperate these Democrats are to getting money from these corporate donors and these rich donors and stuff. They'll go as far as, taking money from anybody because they just want that money so bad. They want money in their coffers that badly. And yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know how they get away with it. Well, obviously they do it because of the media, but I don't know how they do it morally. I mean, don't go out there and call yourself a Democrat and then pretend, pretend like you're in favor of all these Democratic policies while taking money from GOP donors who are going to make you push for Republican type conservative policies. So obviously you got your hand caught in the cookie jar, and you're acting like you're not doing anything wrong while you have crumbs on your lips. It's all there, and we're not stupid. We can see this stuff. It takes simple research. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to, find that kind of research. Be able to do that kind of research if we didn't have reporters like Lee Fong posting these great articles. But when you know which media outlets to cover, which media outlets to follow and which ones to kind of depend on and rely on. I mean, it's when you do that, you're able to stay on top of this shit. So all of you people out there, and I'm sure a lot of you aren't, I'm sure a lot of the people that watch me aren't watching CNN and MSNBC. But if you're following outlets like The Intercept, you're following outlets like, The Nation. The Nation is very good. You're following, I know a couple of other ones are like the Progressive, Jacobin, Counterpunch. A lot of these great outlets, they are a big help to progressives, and obviously watching guys like Kyle Kulinski, watching Humanist Report, TYT to some extent is still pretty decent with Cenk and Anna, and obviously Jimmy Dore is great, Tim Black, all these people. So you guys keep watching people like me, keep watching people like all those people. I am happy to give a shout out to them, and I hope to be good. I hope to be big enough I hope my show to be big enough to get a shout out from them one day. And I'm proud to be in the same kind of in the same line of business, I guess you could call it, as those people, and they're awesome. And it's luckily we got outlets like all of these to document all of this corruption that's going on, all of this bribery and stuff, legalized bribery to go on. Yeah, and by the way, I forgot to mention this, and this is kind of goes into the next part of this Biden type story, is the lobbyist David Cohen, who works for Comcast, that Biden did an event with, is also a big time anti-union guy. He's a union buster, and I mean, the guy is he's not in favor of workers. He's not in favor of doing anything for regular people out there. And that takes us to this next fucking gem from Gropey Joe over here. In his, I believe it was his first, what the hell is this? 1 second. In his first, what was it, rally or campaign speech or whatever, Biden goes out there and he talks about how he's a union man. He literally said that. He said, I'm a union man. Look at this, what it says here. It says all across. This is a quote from Biden from one of his first campaign speeches on, I think it was last week, I believe it was. And he said, all across America, unions are hurting. With too many people left out or left behind, our political system is broken. We are tearing America apart rather than lifting it up. I mean, typical cliches and platitudes from Biden over here. And then people apparently were chanting, "We want Joe." He says the middle class is hurting. It's hurting now. The stock market is roaring, but you don't feel it. There was a $2 trillion tax cut last year. Did you feel it? Did you get anything from it? Now that's all fine and dandy. He's saying the right things there, especially mainly in that part I just read right now. But when it comes to the policies that Biden has advocated for and the policies he will certainly advocate for in the future, he's not going to be giving tax cuts to the middle class as Democrats claim to. Now, to some extent, they do give it sometimes, but it's always kind of like there's always a caveat to it. So, for example, when Obama was president, obviously Joe Biden was his vice president. I guarantee you, Joe Biden was giving advice to Obama when Obama was, going back and forth with the Republicans and kind of, doing his different negotiations where Republicans were making all these demands. Obama definitely went out there and, he tried to give Republicans he tried to give them the whole fucking barn and they still wouldn't take it. So, for example, there was at one point there was this thing that happened. Some of you may remember, which was called the Grand Bargain, and it involved major cuts to Social Security and Medicare and all those Medicare, Medicare and Medi-Cal, all these different entitlement programs. And when the Republicans and Obama were kind of working together supposedly to do this, the whole idea of the grand bargain was to really screw over regular people. So screwing over regular people who have, who rely on these different entitlement programs, but they knew. Obama and Biden for sure knew what they were doing. So they were going out there and they were trying to sell out as much as possible just to get the votes from Republicans. What happened? No Republicans, if any, maybe a couple, but definitely no Republicans ended up supporting any of the things that Obama was passing. And he, like I said, he was trying to give them everything, any kind of cuts to Social Security and Medicare and all these entitlement programs as he could give, as he tried to give, they still wouldn't budge. And Obama just kept giving more and more and more. And eventually Obama was pissed. He was like, oh my God, what is it? What am I going to have to do to get these Republicans to vote for me? Of course, as Bernie Sanders has shown, obviously not as president, but just as being a politician and being in the Senate, you have to show strength. If you show strength and you show the ability to be an actual negotiator and not just giving away everything and not just handing it all to the people that you are supposedly negotiating with, you actually demand things like that. Well, in that case, certainly Republicans know how to demand. Republicans can ban anything, and Democrats, they'll do it. Republicans ask the Democrats to jump, and the Democrats ask them how high. That's how it's been. That's how it was under Obama, and that's how a lot of times that's how it still is right now. Just look at the way Trump demands, a border wall from the Democrats, and the Democrats are like, okay, we'll give you a border wall, but you got to do this other thing, and then Trump tells them to fuck off, and they're like, okay, fine, we'll give you more for the border wall. That didn't end up happening. I don't know where the negotiations for the border wall are at this moment, but that's an issue for another day. But the point is that Democrats they're always capitulating to the Republicans. They're always trying to give something away. They're always trying to do something to to do something to get a deal done, but it's always to screw over regular people, while the Democrats claim that what they're doing is for the people, but it's really not. And they're able to fool all the fucking idiots for sure. So I mean, in this case, when it comes to Biden claiming he's a union man, then why the hell are you doing a fundraiser with a fucking anti-lobbyist, anti-union, union busting goon? You're not a union guy. Biden might have been a union guy back in his fucking, in the 1850s when he was a fucking young dude, but he's not like that now. Ever since he's become, a politician, ever since he's become certainly an establishment politician, he's just been a sellout. And he's been a sellout, and he's been a capitulator to Republicans. Like I said, he was Obama's VP. There's no doubt in my mind that he was negotiating a lot of those, or he is certainly if not negotiating, he was definitely telling Obama, be, sell out, be as much, be a sellout as much as possible. Give them, what you need, because you have to worry about your poll numbers, and you have to worry about how Fox News covers you. You have to worry about what the right wingers are going to say about you. You don't want to get smeared. You got to worry about your legacy. It's all that fucking typical establishment bullshit that these fucking idiots, these moronic politicians, they worry about, and they never know how to look at the big picture, or they know that they shouldn't look at the bigger picture, at least in regard to helping people, not their own big picture. Their own big picture is just worrying about their legacy. But in the reality, what the big picture is worrying about the people. And down the line, the bigger picture shows that people end up getting screwed. So if you go out there and you push, you push entitlement reform, which is just cutting entitlements, and you push all this, we're giving you tax cuts, but then it's really tax giveaways, more tax giveaways to the super rich, and claiming, we're going to deregulate, we're going to regulate Wall Street, but then it's a really watered down piece of legislation, while in that legislation they're still allowing big banks to not be too big to fail, and all that stuff, the typical stuff that was happening under Obama. All this just kind of throwing a bone to the progressives every now and then, and pretending like they're doing things for us when they're not. And in reality, the Obama administration and people that were in his administration, they couldn't stand progressives. Famously, who was it? Rahm Emanuel, when he was the chief of staff to President Obama, he said progressives are fucking retarded. He literally used that language to refer to progressives. He said, we're fucking retarded because we want progressive policies. So all the somewhat progressive policies that Obama was offering when he was running in 2008 and then, became president in 2009, all those demands we made went right out the window. They didn't even give a shit no more. It was gone. Especially once Rahm Emanuel got in there, once Obama started being coached by all these different, idiotic Democratic strategists, Obama immediately flipped and didn't want to do shit for regular people, didn't want to do shit for progressives. He just wanted to cater to the neoliberal establishment and right-wing Republicans because he didn't want them to attack him. That's all it really was. And Joe Biden is going to use that same exact strategy on top, but the only difference is that he's a white guy. He's not a black guy like Obama. He's a white guy. He's a privileged white guy. He's rich as fuck. He doesn't give a shit about regular people, and he just wants to do what's going to make his friends happy. Again, he's doing fundraisers with GOP donors. When you're doing fundraisers with GOP donors, there is no way you are beholden to progressives. There is no way you are beholden to. Let's just put aside progressives. You're not beholden to doing the right thing. On the law, in the bigger picture, you have to consider the fact that this isn't just about progressive, doing what progressives want. It's doing what is good for the country, but when it comes to progressives, in my opinion, and in the opinion of, I think many people that you ask out there, progressives are for the people. They are. We are for the people. Our policies, our ideas are advocating for what the people want, regular people. and we are pushing for what's right. We're not pushing for things that are, ridiculous and over the top. That's exactly what Bernie Sanders is pushing for people to have health care. He's pushing for people to go to college without getting, drowned in millions and millions, or however thousands of, at least per person, hundreds and thousands of dollars of debt. Being able to make a decent wage, at least having at least a $15 minimum wage, which is, again, not asking for much. Bernie managed to do that for Amazon. He managed to do that, I believe, for Disney workers as well, Amazon and Disney workers. And, but when have you ever seen Biden say, advocate for these things? But he's going out there and saying, "Oh, well, you're, the tax cut for the rich that Trump gave and stuff. Yeah, that's really, really horrible." But then what's Biden going to do if he becomes president? He's going to still give tax cuts to the rich, but he's going to throw in a little bone to the middle class and say, "Oh, here's your tax cut for the middle class." So, I mean, look at this idiot. Who's this guy? Somebody, and it's later. It's this, Harold Schaitberger, the general president IAFF, which is, I think it's Biden got, he got endorsed by some unions. I think that might have been one of the unions. Then this guy says, referring to Biden, he says he knows that labor and union built the middle class. They built this country. Yeah, we know that already. Biden, as much as he claims to know that, is not going to be in favor of unions. He is not going to be doing anything for unions other than, again, throwing a little bone to them and then the rest of his policies are just going to be advocating for whatever the super rich want. That's all it really is. And there's another quote here from, I guess, the same guy. He says, Biden connects with those workers who don't believe the last Democratic nominee listened to them or cared about them. Who don't believe the last Democratic nominee, who don't or do, who believe the last, so that quote doesn't make any sense. Who don't believe, so he's obviously referring to Hillary Clinton. And he's saying, so is he saying that Hillary did listen to, she did listen to workers? Obviously she didn't. So he's saying that she did. That doesn't make any sense. But obviously Hillary was not in favor of unions either. She was, for fuck's sake, she was on the board of Walmart. She was on the board of Walmart. She, had donors that, she received donations from, I believe it was the part of the Walmart family, the Walton family or whatever that owns Walmart. So yeah, but I don't exactly know what that quote's saying there. But anyway, Joe Biden is not going to do anything for regular people. We need to realize that we know this, but we need to convince other people to realize this, because it's damn true that he is not going to do anything for regular people. He is not going to do anything for progressives. And anybody that thinks that, you either don't know politics or you're just a blind Democrat loyalist who just wants to believe that anything Democrats do is right and they can never do anything wrong, and we should just, believe them because Trump is really bad. Okay, well, if you're going to go with that mentality, you're not going to get anywhere. That's not going to do anything for you. Getting rid of Trump is not going to be the only thing that we're going to be able to. Getting rid of Trump is not going to be the only thing that's going to fix our problems. We need to go further than that. We need to actually defeat him with somebody that's going to push an agenda that is the complete opposite of Trump and not agreeing with any of his shitty policies. So, kind of in relation to the subject of Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders has been kind of calling out Joe Biden a little bit. I saw in some interviews or something he was saying that Joe Biden is my friend and stuff. So he's trying to somewhat play nice with Biden, but he's also calling him out on policy. He's calling him out on things that he feels Biden is not good on. And Bernie made an appearance on CNN, and I'm going to play this video for you real quick.
I want to talk about your new trade pledge. You're asking President Trump and all the Democratic primary candidates to sign on to it. Just explain what it is, and obviously beyond the substance, which is reducing the trade deficit and scaling back job outsourcing. Do you think it's actually realistic that your chief rivals, whether it's Warren or Biden, would actually sign on to something of yours, or would they try to just put out their own plans?
Well, look, mostly this is directed to President Trump. What we have seen over the last many years is one disastrous trade policy after another. And that is NAFTA, which I helped lead the effort against, cost us about 1 million jobs. It is PNTR with China, cost us approximately 4 million jobs. And it has led to a race to the bottom, Anderson, where companies now, understanding that they can go abroad and hire people for $1 an hour, are cutting back on wages that American workers receive. So what I am saying to Trump and everybody else is, look, we need new trade policies which protect the interest of American workers and not just the CEOs of large corporations. And I'll give you the thrust and the heart and soul of what we are talking about, is that we have profitable corporation after profitable corporation shutting down in America, throwing American workers out on the street, going abroad, and then they line up at the federal trough for contracts. And what I am saying is, if you want a contract and you are a major corporation, you know what? Don't think you're going to get a contract if you lay off, shut down plants and lay off American workers. Don't think you're going to get a contract if you don't allow workers to organize into a union, if that's what they want to do. If you're cutting back on their health care, you have to be corporate citizens, good corporate citizens. And I think one of the ugly things we're seeing in America today is, while the rich get much richer, while corporate profits are soaring, you are seeing tens of millions of workers struggling to make ends meet, people working 2 or 3 jobs. And corporate America now has got to understand that they've got to pay attention to their workers, not just to their stockholders.
Yeah, I wanted to just comment on that statement that Bernie just made. So what Bernie is saying there is that he is saying to the companies that are sending jobs overseas because of trade deals, so they're basically not, basically what it comes down to is they are not willing to give decent or high-paying jobs to their workers, so they just send the jobs overseas to China and Singapore and Bangladesh and all these different poor countries who are willing to pay their workers 10 cents an hour, essentially slave wages essentially, and because the people in the companies in this the companies in this country don't want to give money, don't want to pay their workers. So what Bernie is advocating for is saying that to those companies, so if Bernie was president, what he's going to tell those companies is that if you're not going to keep if you're not going to keep those hardworking American jobs in America, you're going to get taxed higher. You're going to suffer some sort of financial punishment, I guess, if you want to call it. You're going to suffer some sort of, you're going to have to pay some sort of tax, some sort of levy, some sort of something that is going to force you to keep those jobs in the United States. So this is something that, I mean, honestly, and they're not going to, because they are beholden to their corporate donors. They are beholden to the heads of these companies. This is what Democrats need to do when they are pushing for trade deals. So I'm sorry, when they're pushing for not essentially doing trade deals, is what you have to do is you have to be a bully. You have to be a bully and be like, this is what's going to happen if you're going to send jobs overseas. This is what's going to happen if you're going to sell out hardworking American workers, hardworking American, people out there who are just trying to get a paycheck. They're not asking for much. Regular people out there are just trying to get a job. They're trying to work 9 to 5 or, whatever hours they're working. They're trying to work 40 hours a week. Sometimes they're working 50 and 60. But all they're trying to do is just work and get paid so that they can have their lights on and feed their families, get decent health care, all that stuff. So if you're going to send those jobs overseas, we're going to punish you. And you're going to deal with that punishment, or you're going to bring those jobs back to America, and then you don't have to deal with it. You don't have to deal with any of that punishment, any of that financial burden, essentially, that Bernie Sanders would levy on you. So, I mean, it's a very simple concept, and it's a very good concept. And this is how you do it. And then, if Bernie Sanders gets hate for that, then fine, big deal. You're going to get the praise of the people. Obviously, you're not going to get the praise of the big corporations. You're not going to get the praise of the corporate mainstream media who's going to attack you. But at least you're going to go out there and you're going to be able to say, like, listen, I'm standing up for people. I'm standing up for hard workers that, they're not asking for much. And this is what we're going to do. You don't like it? Then fuck off. I'm standing up for the regular people here. You're just going to have to deal with it. So let's go into the next part of the clip here.
You talk about unions. Former Vice President Biden at his first campaign event today was in front of firefighters union. Obviously, critical organized labor is critical support in a Democratic primary. Are you concerned that Biden can make inroads there, that Biden has a leg up there?
Well, look, I'm running against, I think, 19 other people, so I'm concerned about everybody. But I think when people take a look at my record versus Vice President Biden's record, I helped lead the fight against NAFTA. He voted for NAFTA. I helped lead the fight against PNTR with China. He voted for it. I strongly oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He supported it. I voted against the war in Iraq. He voted for it. So I think what I hope, Anderson, what this campaign is about, and I got to tell you, I like Joe Biden. Joe is a friend of mine. But I think what we need to do with all of the candidates, have a issue-oriented campaign, not personal attacks, but talk about what we have done in our political lives, what we want to do as president, and how we're going to transform our economy so that it works for all of us and not just the 1%.
Okay, so before I move on to the next clip, I want to comment on what he said there. So, first of all, from the outset, I need to say this. Bernie Sanders always feels this need, and I know why. I'm not attacking for it necessarily, but all I'm saying is that he always feels this need to say that, I'm not, everything needs to be not be a personal attack. We all need to, be nice to him. He says Joe Biden's a friend, blah, blah, blah. So what he's trying to say is, like, we don't need to attack personally. Again, Bernie Sanders doesn't attack anybody personally. Bernie Sanders is stating the truth about somebody's record. When he went down that list of saying all the trade policies that Bernie, that he opposed, whereas Biden supported, and not supporting the Iraq War, and Biden supported, and all those different things, he's stating facts. If you don't like facts, then don't listen to Bernie Sanders. If you want to hear a bunch of stupid platitudes and cliches and, rosy language and ridiculous slogans, go listen to Joe Biden, go listen to Hillary Clinton, go listen to Beto O'Rourke, go listen to Pete Buttigieg, go listen to Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, all the rest of them, all those fucking knuckleheads. Those people will give you all that stuff that makes you feel nice and warm and cuddly inside. You want to hear Bernie? He's not going to give you that shit. Sometimes Bernie does give you some cliches. Sometimes he does say some things that are going to be kind of catering to the establishment a little bit. Like, for example, saying that Joe Biden is my friend and all that stuff. But my general point is that the only reason he's saying that stuff about not using personal attacks against somebody, in this case Biden or whoever, is because he gets attacked for doing these so-called personal attacks. So when he calls somebody out on the record, just like he did with Hillary Clinton, he never used a personal attack against her. He never did any of that shit. He called her out for the policies that were bad that she supported. He's doing the same exact thing with Biden. He's going to do the same exact thing with every single other candidate, and they're going to do that with Bernie if they feel Bernie's policies are not good. They're going to call him out for the same thing. So are those personal attacks too? And every single time Bernie did that with Hillary Clinton, he got called a sexist. So are the people that go after Bernie Sanders for his policies, are they anti-Semitic? Are they anti-Jew? So don't play those fucking games. These people that are anti-Bernie and going to call him sexist if he goes after Kamala Harris or Amy Klobuchar, whoever is on that fucking debate stage, don't fall for that stuff. This is a policy-based candidate, Bernie Sanders. Tulsi Gabbard is the same thing. Mike Gravel is the same thing. To some extent, Elizabeth Warren is the same thing. Another person that Bernie Sanders says is my friend and all that stuff. But Elizabeth Warren, to some extent, is not all that great. But she does have a little bit of policy that she puts out there. People like to refer to as a policy wonk and stuff. I got into a discussion with somebody about that on Twitter. And I'm not a really big fan of policy wonks. But Bernie Sanders, what he does is not attacks. He's calling somebody out on their record. If they have a bad record, he says it and he states it flat out. And if you don't like it, then don't get involved in a political debate. Don't follow politics, because that shit is going to happen. People are going to get called out for shitty policies that they believe in, and that doesn't make them sexist or sexist or racist or anti-Semitic or anything like that. That's just people that are having a debate and having a disagreement. So the only reason people do that is because they want to deflect away from the issues. They don't want to focus on issues. They just want to focus on specific pet issues that they like. So they say, oh, okay, well, if you don't want to do that, then you're a sexist. So, yeah, okay. So let's go on to this last minute and 10 seconds or so.
And just finally, I want to get your reaction to something that the president tweeted over the weekend. He said, quote, the Democratic National Committee, sometimes referred to as the DNC, is again working its magic in its quest to destroy crazy Bernie Sanders for the more traditional but not very bright, sleepy Joe Biden. Here we go again, Bernie, but this time please show a little more anger and indignation when you get screwed, end quote. Insults aside, do you know what the president is talking about? I mean,
Not usually. I think most of us don't know what the president is usually talking about. But our response to that, Anderson, was, I do feel indignation and anger against a president who told the American people, you remember this, he would provide health care to everybody, and yet he worked overtime to try to throw 32 million Americans off of the health care that they have. He was a candidate who said he would not cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And then he brings forth a budget with massive cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and cuts to Social Security as well. So our indignation is at a president who lied to the working families of this country when he said he would stand up for them.
Senator Sanders, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was a very convenient dodge by Bernie Sanders. He knows exactly what Trump is talking about, and as ridiculous and annoying as Trump is, he is correct. The DNC did screw Bernie Sanders over. I do not believe, as much as other people do believe, that Bernie sold out his supporters and did not speak out against the DNC. I think I don't want to get too far into this because I want to get onto different issues here. But I just want to quickly say that when it comes to the issue of the DNC screwing Bernie Sanders over, they definitely did that. There's no doubt that Bernie Sanders got screwed by the DNC, got screwed by Donna Brazile, got screwed by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, got screwed by Hillary and her campaign. Guaranteed 100% that happened. But when it comes to Bernie's response to that, that is not. To his response being weak or his response being, not enough and not responding. Bernie Sanders fought Hillary Clinton all the way to the Democratic convention. He fought her and fought her and fought her and made sure that, all the whatever votes were counted when the convention happened, all the electoral votes and everything, during that primary. So people that are saying that Bernie Sanders does not stand up for what he believes in, did not stand up for, against the DNC, did not stand up, did not hold the Democrats, the establishment to their feet to the fire and sold out his supporters. That's just bullshit. So people want to do that because they want to find something on Bernie, and then they want to claim, They want to, it's almost like it's a stupid form of purity. I don't like to use that word, the whole purity test stuff. But in this case, this is just stupid purity, because what you're doing is you're whining about Bernie Sanders not doing enough when he did a lot. He fought all the way to the convention and didn't get what he wanted, so he ended up endorsing Hillary Clinton. I did not support Hillary Clinton. Obviously, I did not vote for her, even though 80% or whatever, roughly 80% of Bernie voters did vote for Hillary Clinton. I was not one of them. I went and voted for Jill Stein, and I'm happy to say that, and I'm happy to admit that. But when it comes to Bernie selling out his supporters, that's not true. However, this statement, Bernie Sanders knows exactly what Trump was referring to. He knows he got screwed over by the establishment. He knows he got screwed over by the DNC, but he is walking a very, very fine line. I don't like it, but he is doing it. He is walking a very, very fine line to make sure that he does not piss off the Democratic establishment, to make sure that he stays on their good side, that he doesn't piss them off, doesn't make them angry and upset and start whining about him. And the problem is that Bernie already gets attacked enough for not being a Democrat and not being not supporting progressive policies. Laugh along with me. Obviously he does. They're just making shit up, but he already gets called out for that kind of stuff. So him, and I'm sure he obviously thought this himself, but many of his advisors as well tell him, if Trump tries to goad you on calling out the DNC, don't do it, because in the long run, that's not going to help you out. And that's true, because if he does do that, then the DNC is going to actively try and screw him over, but they're already trying to screw him over as it is. Let's just be clear. I'm not saying the DNC is not trying to screw over Bernie. They're already doing it. They've always been doing it, and they're still doing it. The DNC, the Democrats, establishment, all the majority of the super delegates, all that stuff, all the DNC, the members, the board that are on the DNC and everything, all those people, majority of them are all trying to screw over Bernie. I'm not saying they're not doing it. I'm not saying they're ever going to stop if Bernie appeases them. No, there's no way that's going to happen. However, he does not need to attack them when he's goaded by Trump. If another Democrat wants to come on board and say, let's say Tulsi Gabbard or something says, what the DNC did in 2016 was unfair, maybe Bernie Sanders will say that. But when he gets goaded by Trump, that's a different story. You can't take that bait. If you take that bait, then you're basically what you're doing is you're saying Trump is right, and that's political. Unfortunately, it's political suicide. As much as, I'm not the type of person who's just going to disagree with everything that flippantly disagree with everything that Trump says. But at the same time, you have to pick your battles, and you have to choose what things are better to speak out on, and other things that are maybe you shouldn't have to or don't have to speak out on. But in this case, I don't think Bernie answered that question very well. But at the same time, I know why he answered it the way he answered it, and I'm not really going to have an issue with that. But I just hope that he doesn't. I just hope that he comes up with a better answer and doesn't cater to the DNC that much, or at all, really. But when it comes to dealing with Trump, with Trump, you can't take the bait on that. Trump is and Trump doesn't care about corruption. Trump doesn't care about Trump doesn't care that the DNC screw over Bernie Sanders. Let's not get twisted. Trump is not some moral character. He's not somebody that's going to, stand up for what's right and stand up for what's moral. He's just going out and just trying to exploit the DNC and pretend, he's trying to hurt Bernie in a way so in this case, getting Bernie to respond to what the Democrats did in 2016 and what they're probably going to do this time around too in 2020. But he's trying to get Bernie to shoot himself in the foot so that he screws himself over early, and then he doesn't end up having Trump. It doesn't have to end up facing Bernie, because Trump knows that a lot of his supporters that are anti-establishment are going to go and support Bernie, who's also anti-establishment. So Trump knows what he's doing. He's doing this specifically to get at Bernie and call his bluff, and Bernie luckily did not go for it. I didn't really like that answer. Let's just put it that way. So there was another article. This one is from The Hill, it's talking about how, and kind of in relation to this kind of whole Democrats attacking each other and stuff. So it's it's an article about how the primary race is going to get nasty, and it's going to become a ballroom brawl or whatever it is. So, and it says, the article says the gloves are beginning to come off in the crowded Democratic race for the White House that so far has resembled more of a tea party than a ballroom brawl. Okay. Yeah, so it hasn't become a ballroom brawl yet, but it could. It says Mayor Pete Buttigieg said this week he didn't think Bernie Sanders could rebuild the coalition that pushed Bernie Sanders' 2016 candidacy forward, a line many saw as a shot undercutting a rival campaign. Yeah, so Buttigieg is a moron. He claimed to be a supporter of Bernie in 2016. All of a sudden, he feels like he's not going to be able to push to use that momentum into 2020. That makes no goddamn sense. Buttigieg is using zero evidence to make that claim. I have no idea what he's talking about, but that's not surprising from somebody that basically is trying to make his best Beto O'Rourke impression. And it says those remarks came after Sanders' campaign. Ro Khanna lashed out at Buttigieg for comparing Bernie Sanders' supporters to Donald Trump's. Even though Buttigieg had been praising Sanders for reaching out to the anti-establishment voters that Democrats have been accused of ignoring. Yeah, so I don't know. Buttigieg he's trying to play both sides here. One second he's saying Bernie Sanders supporters are like Trump. One second he's saying they're, that you need to stand up against the establishment. All right, make up your mind, bro. Either you're on one side or the other. But I mean, that's just typical opportunism for a kind of somebody that wants to be friendly with the establishment, but obviously wants to pretend like he's going up against the establishment, but being friendly with them essentially. It says separately, the Sanders campaign swiped at former Vice President Joe Biden, who entered the race early on Thursday for raising money at the home of a corporate lobbyist, which was the story I mentioned earlier. It says, and just as Democrats, a group launched by former Sanders campaign aides, issued a blistering statement attacking Biden as a corporate shill and saying he's the wrong kind of politician for the party to nominate. And that's correct. The new attacks come as the race for the party's nomination takes shape around Biden and Sanders, who are the clear front runners at this early stage. Both are now coming under attack. Who's attacking Bernie? I guess that'll be mentioned later part of this article. Once Democratic strategist says it's going to be nasty. It says how Trump attacked the Republicans back in 2015 and 16. So that's going to be similar to this one. Yeah, I guess it could, because it is a crowded field and everybody's it's going to be like more like a kind of a singular firing squad, but that's how it is. That's a primary for you. What are you going to do? Let's see. It says there are worries about Democrats, however, that as things get uglier, it could hurt the party. Primary race is good for the party. We're seeing real innovative ideas. Blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure not to tear each other apart. Yeah, whatever. Mainstream Democrats on Thursday were seething over the Justice Democrat statement issued hours after Biden's announcement. Alexandra Rojas, a former field organizer for Sanders who now runs the liberal group, called Biden the old guard of the Democratic Party, who she said was responsible for failing to stop President Trump. She says Joe Biden stands in near complete opposition to where the center of energy is in the Democratic Party today. This part I found funny. One Democratic strategist said the Justice Democrats make me sick. That just means that the Justice Democrats is a thorn in the side of the establishment. They're a thorn in the side of the Democrats, and they can't stand that. They can't stand that, God forbid, somebody comes out and speaks against, your precious Democratic Party and your precious Democratic Party candidates, and the I guess in this case the kind of the standard bearers, as the last segment I mentioned, somebody referred to referred to Biden as. It says, I think they said, this campaign is not about telling people who to vote against. It's about outlining the ideas and policies people can vote for and letting the voters decide for themselves. Yeah, but that's the point. When you're going after somebody like Biden, or you're going after any candidate, you're outlining the idea, or at least you're pointing out the candidate that is not in favor of those ideas and policies that people will vote for that are good for the country. And why? I mean, yeah, you should let voters decide, but at the same time, you have to make sure that voters are getting the facts and they're getting information, and they know that they're going for the candidates that are ultimately going to help those people instead of, backing somebody that's going to screw them over. It says, some Democrats say Sanders has a responsibility to keep his online supporters from throwing fire. I can't stand that. They view some of his backers as ruthless attack dogs that will do Sanders' fighting for him. It's this guy, John Renish, is a Democratic strategist. I'm sure he's a fucking genius, as all those idiot strategists are. He says, it's up to Bernie to rein in his surrogates. He didn't do that in 2016, and it was to the great detriment of the party. I'm confident that even if he doesn't win the nomination, he'll move to unify the party. The question is whether his trusted message carriers will. See, this is ridiculous, man. What the hell are you fucking talking about? Why would Bernie Sanders do that? Rein in his surrogates. So what is Bernie Sanders supposed to do? He's supposed to tell his supporters that you can't say who you support or who you don't support. You can't criticize any other candidates because it's going to hurt the party. How about the fact that those candidates that the Bernie supporters don't want to support? How about the fact that those candidates are horrible? How about that? Did you ever think about that? Did you ever consider that their policies suck? Not to say Donald Trump's policies and the Republican Party's policies don't suck, but that doesn't mean that Bernie Sanders is responsible for telling us, people like me, people that I know on Twitter, people that I know on social media, people that are his supporters, whether they're organizers for him, whether they're attack dogs on Twitter, Bernie bros, whatever the fuck label you want to use, these people are not going to be reined in by anybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Bernie Sanders says. We're not going to get reined in by anybody. And the more you try to rein us in, the more we're going to attack against you. If Bernie Sanders tries to rein us in, we're going to attack him for telling us what to do. We're not going to like what he's telling us. We're not going to like that he's telling us to rein it in if he says that. And I don't think Bernie's going to say that. The most that Bernie Sanders is going to say, just like he said in 2016, I believe, is that he's going to say that, this is the case, let's say if he's not the nominee, obviously, is he's going to say that this is the case that, against Donald Trump, this is why you should vote for whoever the hell the candidates, whoever the nominee is going to be if it's not him. So he's not going to do any more than that, and he shouldn't do any more than that. These people that are worried about these attack dogs on Twitter, and these people that supposedly have a mind of their own, and don't just listen to what Bernie Sanders says, these people are not going to listen. They're not going to listen to anything that you morons want him to do. We're not going to listen to you, whoever, John Renish. We're not going to listen to Bernie Sanders. We do what we want. We step to the beat of our own drum. So don't think you're gonna silence us, and don't think you're gonna tell us what to do. Don't think you're gonna, dictate the way the things that we say. That's just not going to happen. Period. End of story. So I'm fucking fired up about that, because I can't stand when these people think they can dictate what we say and then try and get Bernie to dictate what we're going to say. Bernie's not going to do that, and we're sure as hell not going to listen to anybody that tries to dictate our narrative and what we're going to stand for, what, the policies that we're going to stand for and the things that we're going to say. It says, on the left, there is bitterness over how the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton treated Sanders in 2016, and worries the party will pull out all the stops to defeat Progressive this time around. Yeah, it's going to happen, for sure. They're going to try and do that to Bernie, for sure. No doubt about it. And it says it's one reason why It's one reason Biden's entry in the race is a watershed moment and one many think will preface a more negative campaign. Yeah, well, big surprise because they know he's the front runner and we know he's the front runner and we know who we have to fight against. But we're not worried so much about Trump. I'm more worried about Kamala Harris and people like that. Maybe Beto work. I don't know. I don't think Beto ultimately is going to be able to have enough to pull out any kind of nomination for the party. I think Kamala Harris has a much better chance because she's a woman of color. She's half Jamaican, half Indian descent. She is, I think strictly based on her identity and the fact that the Democratic Party loves identity politics, they're definitely going to try and push her for sure. And especially since they see a woman of color going against Trump, they think, and then they want to get those women of color voters, even though Bernie Sanders has the support of women of color voters, has the support of Black, Latino, Hispanic, whatever, Asian, everybody. He has those supporters. He has the support of women. So that's all bullshit. So the fact that anybody claims that Bernie Sanders doesn't have support of women is bullshit, and they've been saying that ad nauseum, and I can't stand it because it's bullshit. It says, who's this? Chris Chamberlain, he's a chairman of the liberal group Democracy for America. He says, referring to Biden, he's a corporate Democrat through and through. Let's see, it says, so liberals are also warning Democrats that it would be self-defeating to anger the activist base, which is us, because that's where the energy in the party is. That's absolutely true. And this is Robert Reich. He is a former Secretary of Labor to Bill Clinton. He says, both wings of the party know how high the stakes are, but I hope the establishment wing understands how dangerous it would be to attack Bernie Sanders or anybody else who they may feel represents the left wing of the party. That would be really stupid and self-defeating, and anyone who cares about the future of the country should exert every bit of influence to prevent that. See, Robert Reich, I don't follow him on Twitter. I've seen some people retweeting him and stuff. I don't necessarily have a view on him. I'm pretty agnostic on him. I think a lot of the things that he tweets and says, for the most part, is good. He is not that much of a progressive, but I mean, he's not a neoliberal. He obviously worked for a neoliberal politician. He worked for a corporatist candidate, but he's another one of those guys that knows how to walk that fine line. He is not necessarily referring to like neoliberals. He's not referring to corporatist Democrats. He's not saying that, but he also knows that you need to recruit left-wing, whatever, activists, left-wing, people, supporters, so Bernie supporters and stuff. So he's not an idiot. He knows who he needs. He knows who the party needs to, who they need to cater to. And I mean, to some extent, that's smart. But at the same time, I don't know if he's going to be, I don't know if he's going to really truly be saying the things that I agree with. But at least he's not an idiot. He's not going out there and just smearing Bernie Sanders for nothing. There's another part here. It talks about how Bernie Sanders stood up for violent criminals and domestic terrorists like the Boston Marathon bomber to be able to vote. So incarcerated voters being allowed to vote. I think that's not going to help him in the polls. It's not really going to help him. Kyle Kulinski was mentioning that on one of his episodes from Secular Talk. He was mentioning how that probably kind of helped. That kind of probably hurt Bernie in the polls when he mentioned that people in jail should be allowed to vote. But it's a right. It's a right that's afforded to every American, whether you're in jail or not. And as much as people think that, and to some extent, I believe that people who are on jail should not have the same rights that you or me have, or any kind of regular person out there that's living out there in regular society. But at the same time, when there's a lot, I mean, when you consider voters, like when you consider people that are in jail for stupid, petty drug crimes and petty theft and whatnot, those people should be allowed to vote. Those people didn't really hurt anybody, When it comes to the Boston Bomber and all that stuff, that's a little bit of a different story. But as Bernie Sanders mentioned in the town hall where he made this comment, he said that's a slippery slope and it's going to result in disenfranchising a lot of people like those petty, drugs, so criminals that sell drugs and commit non-violent crimes and stuff like that. So so don't murder anybody. So I can see both sides of the argument, but at the same time it's people have the right to vote. People in this country have the right to vote. If you're an American, you get to vote. That's period. End of story. And so this guy, I think I mentioned him before. His name is John Delaney. He's a lower tier candidate. Yeah, he's running on a self-funding campaign. He chided Bernie Sanders for calling Israel's government racist. Okay, well, Bernie Sanders is a Jew. His family survived the Holocaust. I think Bernie Sanders has every right to refer to Israel as racist, especially when they are literally discriminating and being racist to innocent Palestinians, let alone killing those innocent Palestinians. Not just being racist against them. They're discriminating against them and killing them. Little children a lot of times too. It says here, Buttigieg has been riding a wave of momentum. Blah, blah. Yeah, okay. We'll get to that later on. Oh, maybe not. Whatever. It says, what does it say here? It says, he said something about Bernie. I think the difference is that a lot of interest in him also was that people were refreshed by the novelty of that boldness. I have a hard time seeing the kind of coalition that he needs ultimately coming together. Yeah, that's what he said earlier. To finish off this article here, it says the Sanders campaign finds suggestions, at least the one from Buttigieg, finds suggestions he can't win particularly irksome. In a statement to the Hill, Sanders campaign manager Faz Shakir said Sanders is leading the charge in standing up to powerful corporate interests, taking on the billionaire class, defeating Trump, and creating government that works for all people. Bernie's unwavering commitment to this fight and his unifying progressive agenda has made him the best positioned candidate to defeat Donald Trump in the general election. And that's absolutely true. I completely agree. We'll see where the polls go and everything. As far as between Biden, between Trump, between Biden, between Bernie, between Kamala Harris, all these different candidates, Buttigieg, Beto. So right now it's very, very early to say. We don't really know what's going to happen from here. But we'll see what happens as far as kind of as far as where we go from here. Who's going to have the momentum riding into the debates? Who's going to have the momentum when the primaries start? The actual voting starts, like the Iowa caucuses and stuff. So we'll see where that goes. There's one more article here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read it because I'm behind a paywall. It's Washington Post. But apparently it's the two campaigns going at it. It's the two, Bernie Sanders campaign and the Biden campaign going at it. I guess I'm able to read it here. So this is an article from Jeff Stein. Says it's from April 29th. Says Joe Biden on Monday endorsed a public option that would allow all Americans to buy into a Medicare-like healthcare insurance plan, as allies of both the former president, vice president, and 2020 presidential rival Bernie Sanders begin to debate the Democratic Party's agenda. So this is basically laying out the fight that's going to be happening between Bernie Sanders and between Joe Biden when it comes to the issue of healthcare, when it comes to the issue of Medicare for all. Biden is obviously going to be taking the much more moderate, so-called moderate stance. I don't even think he wants a public option. I think he's just saying that. But this is definitely going to be a fight when it comes to the issue of healthcare. This fight between Biden and Bernie, especially since they are both the front runners at the moment, they are definitely going to be creating the narrative, setting the tone for where this debate regarding healthcare and Medicare for all and whatnot is going to be going. So, and according to the title of the piece, which is Bring It On, Biden and Sanders teams kickoff debate over Medicare for all. That's basically, I don't know who it is. I guess we'll see in a second, but that's basically one of the other sides telling the other side to bring it on and bring on this debate. All I got to say is that, yes, hell yeah, bring it on. Bernie Sanders is going to win this fight. Bernie Sanders has the better case. And if they want to challenge us, so they want to challenge activists, the activist wing of not the Democratic Party, but the activist wing of the progressive movement. If they want to challenge us, you're going to have a hell of a fight on your hands. You do not want to deal with the people fighting for Medicare for all, especially millennials, especially young people. These are issues that are affecting not only young people, but it's going to affect young people in the long run, because we are the ones that are going to be inheriting this horribly, horribly flawed healthcare system where people are getting screwed. We are the ones that are going to have to deal ultimately with the system that is screwing people over. Of course, there's a lot of people right now, boomers, older people, a lot of them, God forbid, have, they have illnesses, they have cancer, they have tumors, they have whatever problems they have. My father, he is currently dealing with a Parkinson's-like illness right now. I love him and I want him. I hope Bernie Sanders, if he were to become president, he would be able to help my father. Joe Biden would not be able to help him. My dad currently does not know who he's supporting. He seems to be, he currently, I don't want to put him, I don't want to put my dad on the spot. I don't want to sell my dad out. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to attack him or anything right now. But what I'm going to say is that he does seem to be supporting Joe Biden right now. Unfortunately, I think I can convince him. He needs to know that Joe Biden is not going to help him. I'm going to try and get him to hopefully understand that. We have a lot of debates regarding politics and stuff. He does support Bernie Sanders. I'm not saying he doesn't support Bernie, but he doesn't think Bernie is going to be able to make it. I don't think he thinks he's going to be able to beat Trump. Hopefully he doesn't get mad at me for pointing this stuff out. He's a very smart guy. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to politics, but he is somebody that watches CNN. He watches these different cable news networks. So him and I have a huge disagreement when it comes to the sources that we trust and who we kind of believe when it comes to the opinions that are stated regarding, different political debates and conversations. But he is not anti-Bernie. He is not anti-Bernie. But he's also not anti-Biden. He's not also anti-Democrats. He's, for the most part, always voted Democrats. He used to vote for the Green Party at one point when Ralph Nader was running. Now I'm the Green voter. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016, so the tables have turned. But my dad does have an unfortunate it's a illness that is could lead to him dying. I really, really hope he can fight that. But that's something. So, like I was saying, Medicare for all can undoubtedly help somebody like my dad, can undoubtedly help somebody like any boomer, any older person out there that is suffering through any kind of incurable disease. And it's possible that my dad's illness can be cured, but that's kind of up in the air at the moment. But, but the bigger picture is, the people that are millennials like myself, we're going to be definitely affected by this for sure. And that's why we're willing to fight for this so much. That's why we're willing to fight for this so hard, and why we get very angry. Because we don't want to have to deal with the ridiculous healthcare costs that are going to be a burden on us, let alone the burden that we have regarding student loan debt. So Biden doesn't want to help the people that have student loan debt. He's literally, like I said before, he's just telling them, oh yeah, I have no sympathy for you. I have no remorse for you, all that stuff. So he doesn't care about student loan debt. Why the fuck would he care about healthcare debt? So not debt, but the healthcare costs. Why would he care about that? He claims to, but I don't think he does. The only reason he cares at all, even a little bit, is because he was, Obama's VP, and Obama obviously pushed for Obamacare. He pushed for Obamacare, so he did push for, in some regard, to reform the healthcare system, but definitely didn't do it enough, because he ended up pushing for a Republican-style, essentially, healthcare plan, so which ended up doing nothing for anybody, pretty much. I think, majority of these people in this country certainly weren't helped. Well, maybe. 29 to 30 million people did receive healthcare, but how good that healthcare really is? Do you get dropped from your plan? Do you get to keep your doctor and stuff? 20 million people are still, without healthcare, and let alone, dying on the streets and having to, sell their homes just so they can pay their healthcare bills. But yeah, so Biden, I don't think, cares about that shit. They claim to want to have that fight, and they're going to lose it for sure. And people like me, the millennials that I know, we're going to fight that shit until the bitter end if we have to. And that's just the way it is. So they want to have that fight, bring it on. It says Biden is also expected to say he shares with single-payer activists the goal of universal coverage. Yeah, that's what they always say. And lower healthcare costs, but he does not support Medicare for all. So if you don't support it, then what they're saying is, we need to have a smooth transition from first to, public option, and then we'll get to Medicare for all, which they'll never do. They claim they're going to do that, but they're never going to do it. And it says he may reprise Hillary Clinton's argument in 2016 that her more incremental approach would build on the policies of the Obama administration rather than replacing the Affordable Care Act. Well, we don't have the Obama administration right now. We have the horrible Trump administration. And when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to issues pertaining to healthcare costs and people that have to pay, thousands and thousands of dollars to pay for their healthcare, we've taken a step back under Trump. So fuck the Obama administration. That's over with. We're in the Trump administration right now, and whatever happens now, we have to do everything double. We have to double our efforts to make sure it's to make sure we make things right and fix the system. It says here, who's this? It says we are all. Who is this? An advisor to somebody. Who is this an advisor to? Sanders called for blah, 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 single payer. Biden's plan. It says Biden's plan would create a government. It says Biden's plan would create a new government option for patients in the marketplace exchanges that would aim to lower prices for individual Americans by competing directly with private plans, according to a policy advisor for Biden, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to share details of the proposal. Employers would also be able to buy into the public plan. It says Biden is also... okay, I already read that part. So it says so this is what the advisor says. He says, we are all trying to get to a place where we achieve universal health care. I think he sees it like that, the advisor said. But if they want to go after him and Obama about their approach to healthcare, bring it on. Okay, we're going to bring it on. We're not going to go and play nice with somebody that is pushing for something that President Obama claimed to push for. See, this is what this advisor is doing. He's probably an advisor that used to work for Obama too. I wouldn't be surprised. So he's trying to attach Obama. He's trying to attach Obama and Biden together. So, I read somewhere, saw a headline about how Biden didn't ask for Obama's endorsement yet, but he's going to. He's going to ask for Obama to endorse him, no doubt about it. Now, Obama's obviously going to endorse, I think, anybody that ends up running against Trump. But I don't believe Biden that he didn't ask Obama for his endorsement. There's no way. He definitely wants Obama's endorsement, and he's going to take it personally if Obama doesn't endorse him, for sure. But this advisor of his is trying to tie Obama and Biden together and try and see what he's trying. It's very manipulative because it's trying to create that message like, well, if you're against Biden, then you're against Obama. Well, that's not true, because a lot of the policies that Obama had, to be fair, when Obama was not as much of a sellout as he used to be, he was pushing for a lot better stuff than Biden was pushing for. Obama was pushing for Medicare for all, or at least some single payer system or something, when he was running in the primaries against Hillary Clinton. So now Biden's saying, no, we're not even pushing for that. We're going to push for a public option. No, when Obama became president, he was supposedly pushing for single payer when he became president, but then he capitulated so much, he ended up going down to public option, and then he ended up going with the Heritage Foundation idea that Mitt Romney made law when he was governor of Massachusetts. So ended up just completely giving away the farm and got nothing out of it pretty much, other than a watered down system that still screws over regular people. It says here, supporters of Medicare for all also reject the idea that single payer amounts to a rejecting of Obamacare, Barack Obama's legacy, noting the former president recently called it a good idea. Sanders voted for the Affordable Care Act and campaigned hard against Republican attempts to repeal it in 2017. So that's true. So the people that claim that Bernie, because he's in favor of Medicare for all, is against Obamacare are just idiots. They have no idea what they're talking about. And people have actually used that ridiculous argument. It makes no sense. It's complete bullshit. And then, let's see here. So, not this one. 1 second. So it says here, a campaign aide to Sanders also criticized Biden in a statement for attending a private fundraiser with health insurance executive Daniel Hilferty at the Philadelphia home of Comcast executive. So that same, what was his name? Something Cohen, whatever his name was. That same guy that works for Comcast, that's an executive for Comcast, was at that same fundraiser with a health insurance executive. So that's, again, it's a fucking problem. So the same guy that's going to be fighting, like I said before, against net neutrality, if you want to pick out specific policies, net neutrality, that guy's going to fight. There's another guy that's going to be fighting against Medicare for all. They're going to be fighting for single payer. That's why Biden is pushing. So don't. Whenever you hear all that stuff about incrementalism and we need to transition into a program, a policy that's not going too far and it's not possible and it's not going to work and it's too expensive. No, that's bullshit. You're pushing for that candidate of yours, in this case, I'm referring to the advisor that claims that Biden, his ideas are better because it's going to work better that way. No, you and your guy are only pushing for that because he's receiving money from, and he's doing fundraising from a healthcare executive. So somebody that doesn't want the healthcare industry to have less power. They want the healthcare industry to have either more power or the same amount of power they have right now. So if you talk to a healthcare executive, I'm sorry. If you're talking to a healthcare, 1 second. I'm sorry about that. If you're talking to a healthcare executive and you are claiming to be, I'm in favor of, a better system that transitions into this, better form of healthcare instead of what, Bernie Sanders is, pushing for, then, you just don't support getting people healthcare. Well, no, that's bullshit. We're the ones who actually supported getting people healthcare, while you want to give people healthcare, but force them to be under a health insurance plan, force them to, get insurance from their employees, which costs those companies, those companies, entities, whatever, those employers, it costs them, millions of dollars because they have to cover all these people. So it doesn't benefit anybody at the end of the day, and the quality of that healthcare isn't that great anyway. So And it says, so the quote here is from a Sanders campaign aide. It says, anyone defending the current dysfunctional system needs to explain why the average family should have to pay $28,000 a year for healthcare, while the CEO of Independence Healthcare Group, Daniel Hilferty, made a $4.8 million. He made $4.8 million last year. So his salary. That's crazy. $28,000 a year for one person for healthcare, and then that guy makes almost $5 million per year in his salary. What a fucking prick. So the disconnect between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden reflects the Democrats' policy and philosophical rift over healthcare, an argument that could help shape the Democratic Party's agenda on healthcare as the 2020 election intensifies. It says Biden and Sanders are they're leading the field. Although polling shows the race is wide open, because a lot of people are undecided. Let's see. So, that's pretty much it. This debate is going to be nasty. And the reason why this debate is going to be nasty is because people out there are suffering and they don't want to suffer anymore. People that are suffering with ridiculously high healthcare costs, they don't want to deal with that anymore. So if you're, a Biden supporter, or you're Joe Biden, or you're working for his campaign or whatever, and you're mad at people that are fighting for policies that go further than you, but actually end up helping people, then you're out there advocating for things for yourself. You don't give a shit about people. You just care about your lobbyist friends and your donors and stuff that you want to appease and you want to make feel better and do their bidding, essentially. And you'll probably even add them to your fucking administration because they're giving you money so that you're going to do them favors. If it's not putting them on your administration or putting them on your transition team or whatever it is, you're definitely going to, you're not going to put them in your campaign or something. You're like as like a, an advisor or something, or putting them as like, I don't know, the head of the, Secretary of Health and Human Services, whatever those different positions are, you're definitely going to be doing their bidding to some extent. So, and it's obvious. It's so obvious they're going to do that. There's one more quote here from. It says, although key details remain unclear, Biden's plan to create a Medicare public option could give consumers much less expensive insurance without the limited networks that exist in private insurance plans, said Larry Levitt, a healthcare policy expert at the Kaiser Family Foundation. It's a nonpartisan group, but you work for Kaiser. Kaiser is they're one of the people that they're on. Isn't Kaiser a health insurance company? So you're going out there and look at the quote that he says. It says the notion that a Medicare public option is now seen as a moderate idea shows how much the healthcare debate has shifted among Democratic candidates. It doesn't go as far as Medicare for all in simplifying the system, but it may avoid some of the political pitfalls. Okay, but so what is he doing? So it seems like he's advocating for it seems like he's advocating for Medicare for all, but he's saying, no, we have to do the Medicare public option because it doesn't go as far. But he doesn't seem to be against it. What I'm saying is it doesn't seem like he's against Medicare for all. So, I don't know. I don't know the guy. I haven't heard him before. He's a health policy expert at Kaiser. I don't know if that's nonpartisan group. I don't know. A lot of these organizations say he's a nonpartisan group, but I don't know but when it comes ultimately down to these policy debates, we need to find somebody that we need to take people seriously that know that what they're suffering through is all these high costs, and what can help him and what can help people is Medicare for all, not just some watered down version. We don't even know if Biden is going to ultimately go for a Medicare public option or whatever, just a general public option. We don't know that. So, I don't know. It's It's not clear based on what this person is saying. But at the end of the day, it's just, this is about getting Medicare for all to be at the center stage of the healthcare policy debate. It doesn't matter if Republicans are going to use that against us. Go ahead and use it against us. So what the Republicans are going to do ultimately, and the moderates and stuff say, oh well, you're in favor of Medicare for all. It's how could you that's too expensive, and trying to attack us as if we're in favor of that. Then you're just in favor of more people dying from extremely enormous healthcare costs and not helping people that are suffering. So go ahead and advocate for that. Go ahead and advocate for that position. That you're not going to win. So you're not going to win saying people shouldn't have great healthcare. Oh, people should have decent healthcare, meaning decent in the sense of like not Medicare for all. People should have the public option. People should have Obamacare. All that. No, that's not fucking. That doesn't work. I mean, that's not going to do anything. And this is a point that I made before. But when you reach for the stars, you might. You reach for the moon, you might reach the stars, So in other words, if you push for a policy that it advocates for something that's going really far and going really high, you might end up getting part of that. You might end up getting some of that policy. So you might not get the whole thing. You might get 50% of it. You might get 75% of it. So if we push for Medicare for all, maybe we will get the public option. But then we can advance upon that. Instead, these people want to, they just want to, they wanted, put the line in the sand at the public option and then not go further than that. They claim they want to, go in favor of universal. They want to, do this and then push for universal healthcare eventually. But it doesn't work like that. You have to at least push for the highest position possible. And then if you don't get that, at least you won't be disappointed, right? But obviously nobody else other than progressives seem to understand that. And we just push for that policy because that's the policy we want. But at least we know if we don't get that, maybe we'll get something, and it'll be decent. And it's not gonna be some watered down bullshit. So let's switch gears here. So Kirsten Gillibrand is running for president, and she probably doesn't have much of a chance, but she is very. I guess generally popular among boomer white women and maybe some minority women, but she's definitely got a big chunk of not a big chunk, but she's got a decent chunk of the female vote when it comes to the percentage. So there's going to be a lot more female voters backing Kirsten Gillibrand than male voters, for sure. And apparently that's what the ratio of her donations are. She's got much more females supporting her as far as donations and stuff. No, she didn't end up making that much in donation. I think she made like 100,000, 200,000, something like that. Not very much though. And but anyway, so there's an article I'm reading, or I came upon, referring to democracy. It's something that Gillibrand is pushing for called democracy dollars. It says Gillibrand's plan to give every voter $600 to donate to campaigns. The subheadline says the Democratic presidential hopeful wants to use a voucher system to clean up politics, but it's got strings attached. Okay, well, I'm not sure what the strings attached is, but I guess we'll find out. It says, Kirsten Gillibrand unveiled a plan on Wednesday to give every voter up to $600 in what she calls democracy dollars that they can donate to federal candidates for office. In an exclusive interview with NBC News to discuss the rollout of her first major 2020 policy initiative, Gillibrand said her clean elections plan would help reduce the influence of money in politics. I want to read the quotes here. It says, under Gillibrand's plan, every eligible voter could register for vouchers to donate up to $100 in a primary election and $100 in a general election each cycle, either all at once or in $10 increments to one or more candidates over time. Each participant would get a separate $200 pool for House, Senate, and presidential contests for a total maximum donation of $600 for those federal offices. Those would be strings attached. There would be strings attached for both donors and candidates. The money would go only to elections in the donor state, although they could be used for House candidates outside the that's fine. Voters district. Yeah, that's not a big deal. That's okay. Politicians would face much tighter limits on donations. To be eligible to receive democracy dollars, a candidate would have to voluntarily agree. Don't they have enough money? Candidates already have enough money. What do they need $200 for, or $600 for? By the way, I said the maximum donation is $2,700 per person. It's actually $2,800, not $2,700. That could have either been raised or I was wrong about it. But anyway. So it says Gillibrand predicted candidates would opt into the voucher system because the potential of how much you could raise in this system is exponentially higher. She envisioned a system in which campaigns adjust their strategies to win donations from local voting blocks that would otherwise go overlooked from a fundraising standpoint. They would campaign in all communities, she said. They would be going to low-income communities. They would be going to rural communities. They would be asking people to support them not only with a vote but for financial support for their campaign. I mean, that plan doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it's not. I don't understand. What is that? So you're trying to get people to donate to a campaign or campaigns, various campaigns apparently, by giving them money. So why don't you just? I don't understand. Why don't you just raise the minimum wage? I don't understand. This is what I'm saying about these fucking corporate Democrats. Gillibrand is a typical corporate Democrat. So what they want to do is they want to limit or specifically tell you what to do with the money that you receive from the government. So instead of giving you a federal minimum wage, a federal minimum wage of $15 an hour, a living wage, they want to give you money and then tell you how you're allowed to spend that money. Or how about you just give people a minimum wage? I'm sorry, $15 minimum wage or living wage, and then they can do with that money whatever they want. So, I mean, it's weird. It's almost like it's almost like you are trying to, I don't know, I want to say you're trying to, I guess get people to get involved in the political system, I guess, in some way, but then you're telling them how they can use that money that they're being given because it's a voucher. It's really, really strange. I don't even know what. I mean, and she claims it's a way to clean up elections, but how's that going to clean up elections? Unless you're actually advocating to get money out of politics in the sense of like corporate donors and stuff like that, then what the hell is the point of this? So what is the point of giving $600 to every single person, which, by the way, is a ton of money. I mean, obviously it's not going to be every single person, but you have to qualify for it. So I don't know, who knows what the kind of the standards of that's going to be, but you're going to give money to certain people so that they can so you're funneling money to people so that they can then give that money to the candidates, which is the government essentially. So the government gives you money and you give money back to the government. So I don't know. That just doesn't make any sense. It just seems like a way to pretend like you're like, oh, here, I care about regular people, so I want to give money to low income people and people in middle class communities and stuff, so that and he also wants to give it to politicians too, apparently, which doesn't make any sense. So people that already have money to give, she wants to give money to them too. I mean, I don't know. People like Gillibrand, they're completely clueless. They don't really know anything about how regular people are suffering. They don't know anything about what happens when you're living in a corrupt political system where people are suffering. So she thinks this is going to be some sort of way that's going to, like, as if this is going to benefit regular people. This is not a benefit to regular people. This is just a way for you to pretend like you care about money in politics, money corrupting politics, but in reality, you're not really doing anything that's going to fix the system overall. The system still exists. So when it comes to the matter of money in politics, so if Kirsten Gillibrand was trying to come out there and say, I'm going to also add a 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution that gets money out of politics on top of her idea of giving $600 to, every $600 vouchers for people to use in campaigns that they donate to, then that's one thing. Like that would be a decent step forward. That's a lot better than just giving that voucher to people and then expecting them to, basically give money to various candidates. But she's not doing that. She's using this as an opportunity to pretend like she cares about the corrupt system by doing nothing, ultimately, because that's not going to solve anything. Giving money to people and then telling them what to do with it is not going to do anything for anybody other than just telling them what to do and then putting limits on what they're allowed to do because you don't want to. Obviously, Kirsten Gillibrand, being the establishment sellout that she is, she doesn't want to upset, her donors that are giving her money, doesn't want to upset all her other friends that are getting money and, from high-priced, rich donors. So she's like, okay, here's a voucher, and then whatever. Then, this is going to influence people to want to get involved in the political system. But people are already giving money as it is. Now, people that have a decent amount of money, so that people have, $27 lying around to be able to give Bernie Sanders or whichever candidate they want, Tulsi Gabbard, whoever the candidate is. If they have that money, they're willing to give it. Again, this would all make sense if you would actually raise the minimum wage. You would actually let people have a living wage so that they can afford to give that money that they earn from working a job with a decent wage, with a good wage. Then they can use that money however they want and in as much amount as possible, instead of giving them a voucher and saying, well, here's $100 or here's $50 and then you have to spend this on this candidate or that candidate or whatever. That's complete bullshit. I mean, it's just, Kirsten Gillibrand is not a serious person. She's not. First of all, she has zero chance to win the nomination, to become a nominee, and she would fucking do horrible against Trump because her policies suck, and she's just like Hillary Clinton in the sense that she only advocates for policies that cater to the neo-feminist movement and kind of caters to that identity politics, that identity politics kind of wave, that kind of third wave feminism movement. And it's just people that just don't really give a shit about actual policies, but they just want to push for specific candidates and then push for just beating Trump, and that's it. And then ultimately, none of our problems are going to be solved because it's just going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same result somewhat, because you're going to end up with a candidate that probably agrees with Trump in many cases, especially when it comes to foreign policy and, not fixing the corrupt system and all that, all that stuff, typical stuff, regime change wars and whatnot. So, let alone pushing Medicare for all and, decent healthcare policy. So yeah, Medicare. So I mean, Gillibrand is canceled, man. I don't even want to bother, taking her seriously. She's not going to be. I don't even know if she raised enough money to be able to, because you have to raise a certain amount of money to be able to get on the debate stage. I don't even know if she did that. If she didn't, well, I don't really give a. If she did, that's great. If she didn't, I'm not even going to notice that she's not there. Even if she is there, I'm not going to notice it. So, yeah. I mean, who gives a fuck, really? So yeah. Gillibrand, Julian Castro, Seth Moulton, Eric Swalwell, all these people, none of those people can be taken seriously because they are not actual serious candidates with actual serious policies, as you can see here with Gillibrand and her $600 voucher idea. So the next thing that I want to focus on, the next story is a story regarding Nancy Pelosi Nancy Pelosi making an appearance in the UK where she decided to just like randomly badmouth a bunch of progressives and talked about, according to the headline here, Pelosi warns Democrats of liberal menace ahead of 2020 vote. And this article is from AFP through yahoo.com. And it says, so she appeared in the UK, in London, and she said her Democratic Party must avoid the menace of liberal policies pushed by rising stars if it wants to beat Donald Trump in the 2020 election. It says the top congressional Democrat used an appearance at the London School of Economics to set out a centrist vision that could help woo Republican voters frustrated with Trump's approach. Dude, Hillary Clinton tried to do this and failed miserably. She just tried to get all the never Trump voters, and that didn't work out. That didn't work out at all. It completely blew up in her face because she ended up losing to Trump. And now Nancy Pelosi wants to do the same exact thing. She just wants to appeal to a bunch of like moderate, never Trump type voters. It says she followed standard U.S. Diplomatic protocol of senior officials not criticizing the president while abroad. Okay. But she made explicitly clear that new Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, an emerging force in U.S. politics who was often simply referred to as AOC, and fellow young progressives elected in 2018, which is probably referring to like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and stuff like that, represented only the margins of American society. She says, when we won this election, it wasn't in districts like mine or Alexandria's. Pelosi said in a reference to the November midterms in which the Democrats gained control of the House of Representatives. Those are districts that are solidly Democratic. This glass of whatever would win, whatever would win with a D next to its name in those districts, said the speaker after picking up a glass of, Yeah, it says she said in another side, she says, I can compare my liberal credentials across the board. I said to them, anything you're about, I got that sign in my basement 20 years ago. And I think this was an event where she said like, oh, this glass of water could beat Joe Crowley, the corporate Democrat that AOC defeated in her district in 2008 in the 2018 midterms. She said, "Well, this glass of water could defeat Joe Crowley." Okay, well, it's funny. You don't have a very high opinion of Joe Crowley, who you touted as being your number two or whatever. The next person that's going to take over is going to be taking over as House Speaker for you. And she heavily, obviously, supported him against AOC. So much for supporting fellow women. Obviously, that sentiment is complete bullshit. Whenever these female politicians say it, but she was happy to support that white guy, that old white dude, and over the young woman of color. But she compared Joe Crowley. All of a sudden, she doesn't think much of Joe Crowley, her BFF over there, Joe Crowley, and compares him to a glass of water or whatever. And she's claiming that it says, when we won this election, it wasn't in districts like mine or Alexandria's. Yeah, but the point is that Alexandria defeated Joe Crowley, who was absolutely dominating in the category of big money donors and the amount of money he was getting from fundraisers and corporatist fundraisers and people that rich people that donate to him and stuff. While Alexandria was just donating, she was just getting backing from Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, all those people, Our Revolution. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez winning Yeah, okay, she won her general election against whoever the fucking Republican guy was in that district, which was, I think, was it Bronx, I believe? Yeah. And she won that district easily against the Republican, because the Republican has no chance. But that doesn't mean that she didn't work her fucking ass off to beat Joe Crowley in a race that nobody thought she was going to win. So Pelosi is she's an idiot. She goes out there and pretends like, oh yeah, well, it was so easy for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to do that because, yeah, that's a, solidly blue district. Yeah, but she had to defeat a guy that was outraising her by, like, what was it, like 4-1 or 3-1 or something. So, but yeah, like, Pelosi, she's such an idiot. God. And then it says Pelosi. What does it say? It says Pelosi is officially in London to gauge progress in Britain's stalled efforts to withdraw from the European Union after 46 years. But her stay has coincided with an ugly war of words that has pitted Donald Trump against the new breed of Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. Trump accused Omar, the first black Muslim woman elected to Congress, in a tweet Monday of making anti-Semitic slurs. Let's see, making anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, and ungrateful U.S. hate statements. Yeah, well, this is something that, this is an article from about a few weeks ago. That's why, yeah, because I remember a lot of this story, a lot of this stuff that was said. But anyway, let's continue here. It says, their latest spat concerns Omar's remarks about the treatment of American Muslims since 9/11, the 9/11 terror attacks on New York and Washington. Yet Omar's comments about U.S. political backing for Israel being fueled by money from a pro-Israel lobbying group led to criticism from both sides of the political aisle. Yeah, because everybody freaked out because Omar had the nerve to criticize AIPAC, which does not represent all Jewish people. And a lot of Jewish people will say that. A lot of people on the left, they know that AIPAC supports right-wing, Israelis like Netanyahu. Obviously does his bidding, caters to all the Republicans, all the right-wing Republicans and conservatives that are in favor of, Israel, massacring innocent Palestinian civilians. And then it's also said here, Pelosi used a meeting with Britain's opposition Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn on Sunday to speak out against anti-Semitism. Yeah, because a lot of people in the UK believe that Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, because he also criticizes Israel. God forbid anybody does that in either the United States or the UK, apparently, and you get called an anti-Semite. So even Bernie Sanders, who is Jewish, who, again, like I said before, his family did survive from the Holocaust, he's apparently anti-Semitic too because he criticizes Israel. As usual, fucking bullshit. None of that shit is true. What else here? Let's see. She's tweeted, says, Pelosi tweeted after the meeting that she and Corbyn discussed the importance of protecting human rights and the necessity of forcefully confronting anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Corbyn has been under pressure from Jewish groups to more thoroughly investigate and clamp down on anti-Semitic incidents involving labor members. But Pelosi also stuck up for Omar in her current standoff with Trump. I don't think any president of the United States should use the tragedy of 9/11 as a political tool. So, I mean, Pelosi, when it comes to, as usual, when it comes to like what she says and who she attacks, she always likes to do like bipartisan attacks against progressives, but then she also says, oh, well, yeah, obviously whatever the Republican says is really bad too. So she's just like, she is a bipartisan smear merchant, essentially, in many ways. Because initially when Ilhan Omar did come out against AIPAC and called it Israel and stuff like that, Pelosi you barely ever even heard a peep about that. But she made a lot of statements, and so did a lot of other Democrats. You made a lot of statements about how, well, anti-Semitism is a really bad thing, and we need to fight against it. Yeah, of course you do. But what Ilhan Omar said, which is, if some of you may have forgotten, she talked about how the Republican Party and I don't know, just regular like Democratic Party too. I guess I think she was just referring to both parties in general, how they have foreign allegiance, or they have dual allegiance to the Israel and America, because they want to do Israel's bidding. So they want to do the bidding of the Israel lobby. They want to do the bidding of Benjamin Netanyahu. They don't care about, Palestinians, innocent Palestinian people that are being killed with, obviously, all these idiots claim as Hamas and all these terrorist groups, which is not. It's just a bunch of innocent people that are living in that territory in Gaza and Palestine and stuff, which obviously now is being taken over by Israeli settlements. But she, said that the Republican Party, Democratic Party, all these different politicians in America have dual allegiance to Israel, while obviously supporting whatever America does. But if Israel says to jump the politicians in this country just ask how high, and they'll do whatever the Israel lobby will do. Whatever the Israel lobby will say. And Ilhan Omar points that out, and she gets called an anti-Semite for it, even though she's speaking the truth. So, I mean, when it comes to these kind of things, just like with Bernie, when these kind of people talk the truth, speak the truth, all these people just get outraged about somebody speaking the truth. And they just get outraged about how somebody, has the nerve to say something about, the establishment or the powerful elites. And if you have the nerve to anger them, then you are something. You're anti-Semitic, or you're sexist, or you're racist. Just like Bernie Sanders, when he called out the kind of the pro-women groups like Planned Parenthood and stuff, when they endorsed Hillary Clinton, even though Bernie Sanders has just as good, if not a better, record on women's issues and women's rights as Hillary Clinton does. But they endorsed her quickly right away, and when criticized by Bernie Sanders, they said he's sexist, and it's an unfair attack, and it's a veiled threat, or I don't know, a bunch of stupid accusations. But yeah, like the same shit happens with criticisms of Israel. They say, oh, well, you're anti-Semitic now because you're criticizing the Israel lobby. Not necessarily, nobody criticized Israel. Nobody, even though there's tons of shit to criticize Israel on, nobody necessarily said Israel as a country is horrible. The government certainly is terrible. Netanyahu, all those people. The Likud party in Israel is horrible. But nobody criticized the actual Israeli people, the citizens. Nobody is going against them. It's the government that's committing all these horrible atrocities of Palestinians, and is pushing the American government to push for policies that benefit them. It's all to benefit Israel. Ultimately, it's just to benefit Israel. It's to benefit Netanyahu, and it doesn't have anything to do with benefiting actual people. And it's definitely not benefiting the people in Israel. And, even the people in Israel who live there and are safe from Hamas or rocket fire from Hamas and whatever terrorists that are in Palestine. They're not, because the more you enrage the Palestinian people, the more you enrage Hamas and all these different groups, the more they're going to have a reason to go after to go after innocent Israeli people who aren't, maybe they're not against the Palestinians, but people, they become casualties, amidst stupid fights that shouldn't be happening, and that's how it happens. So, all the people that were killed on 9/11, for example, or the people that were killed in the Boston Marathon bombing, all these different things, these are not like all the people that were killed are not like anti-Muslim or not anti, the Tsarnaev brothers that committed the Boston bombing were also Muslim. They were from Chechnya, I believe, Dagestan or Chechnya, I believe, and they were Muslim, but those, but that's the thing. Those terrorists believe that those American people, whether they're, they were in the buildings and the World Trade Centers, and they were, wherever they were the Boston bombing, they thought those people were anti-Muslim, and, so everybody across the board gets framed as being anti-Muslim because the president of the country or whatever, at that time was Bush. During the Boston Marathon bombing, it was Obama. Now, Obama was never really like anti-Muslim, but he was bombing 7 different countries at once for sure. And, it gets those people angry, and it gets them to lash out and, kind of hate Americans because of what their government does. But I think a lot of people in America don't hate the Israeli people for what the Israeli government does. I know I don't. So you got to be an idiot to think the Israeli people are responsible for what Netanyahu does. That's obviously not the case. But ultimately, Pelosi coming out and, somewhat defending Omar but criticizing her, what she said before and stuff, is just ridiculous. On top of the fact of her, her attack on AOC, as I mentioned, being about how, well, the districts that won, they were winning, the districts that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won was not the district that people should be worrying about. But no, in reality, you do need to worry about, though at least not that district necessarily, but that race specifically, where AOC did defeat somebody that, she was not supposed to defeat, and she's pushing for much more progressive policies than that guy Joe Crowley, who previously represented the district, was representing as a congressman. So, I mean, a lot of it, all this kind of just comes down to Nancy Pelosi being a better representative of the Democratic Party, which a lot of progressives are trying to get her to be, but she's not. And, I hope she's not going to, at some point, I just hope she retires or somebody beats her so that she can be so she's no longer Speaker of the House. I just can't stand Nancy Pelosi. She doesn't represent any of the ideals that progressives have pushed for. She claims, I was progressive 20 years ago, and I had a sign in front of my lawn pushing for progressive policies a long time ago, whatever, or a sign in my basement, whatever. Yeah. So no, you did. Maybe you did back then, but what does that have to do with now? I don't give a shit what you were believing 20 years ago. I give a shit what you care about now. And obviously she doesn't believe in any of the progressive ideals that we are pushing for. If she was, she wouldn't be taking big donor money. She wouldn't be, kissing up to Donald Trump to try and get him to vote for policies voting for his policies while, saying well, why don't you support what I do? But he's not. So why are you so worried about getting Trump's support? You're never going to get Trump's support. He's never going to advocate for anything that you're advocating for. So you're either too stupid to notice that, or you just don't give a fuck. While tearing down progressives like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, all these different people. So let's see here. So we got a couple more things I wanted to cover here. Let's do one more topic here. So there was an interesting article that I read at Mediaite.com, which is, they cover what's going on in the media stuff. And there was a book that was written by a I think it was a New York Times White House correspondent named Peter Baker. He's actually, I'm very familiar with him. He's been working at the New York Times for a while. He's just kind of their typical kind of writer, reporter, whatever, that talks about campaign type stuff, covering whatever is going on in politics for the most part. And apparently he wrote a biography called Obama, The Call of History. And so apparently he did I think it was like an update. So he did an update on that biography of Barack Obama. And apparently he updated that biography by talking about how Obama was, so the headline says, Obama took 2016 election as personal insult, that's in quotes, blamed Hillary Clinton's, quote, soulless scripted campaign. So that is just, there's no doubt that Hillary Clinton ran a horrible campaign. I mean, she ran a campaign that was totally scripted, totally catering to, now obviously Obama, I don't think President Obama was this, but totally catering to the elites, catering to her donors, catering to all the people that are, kind of like just like part of like the typical donor class and the super rich and everything. Obama was always part of that club anyway, or at least he was certainly in the majority part of his of his administration, his 8 years as president. But there's no doubt that he wanted Hillary Clinton to become president after him because it would be continuing his legacy. But for him to come out and, apparently according to what Peter Baker says, the writer says, the author of this book says that Obama was, by the way, I don't blame him for being flabbergasted. And does it say flabbergasted here? I don't know. So, yeah, flabbergasted. Well, that's what the article says, not the book. But the book says he took it as a personal insult, and he was, he called her soulless and, the campaign scripted. There's no doubt that he wanted Hillary Clinton to continue what he was doing, and the fact that she couldn't beat a fucking, reality show star buffoon and just an overall fucking idiot and fascist like Trump definitely got under Obama's skin, and he definitely thought she had it in the bag for sure. And the fact that she didn't, man, must have pissed him off to no end. And having to hand over that, that victory to Trump. So basically to hand over the presidency to Trump as he did on the day of the inauguration must have been really, really difficult for Obama. And yeah, I mean, and this is a pretty funny revelation, because when it comes down to it, you would think that Obama would do everything he can to not go after Hillary Clinton, to not go after any kind of Democrats, especially after all this time that that Trump's been in office, and all that stuff is kind of it's done and over with for the most part, as far as like, I'm just saying between Democrats, as far as when it comes to, Hillary not winning and stuff. Like, Democrats are like, oh, we'll just move on now, just focus on Trump. But apparently, Obama is still commenting on it, but he's commenting on it to like specific authors who want to like write books, but he doesn't, like, there's no way Obama is going to come out and like make this statement, in like an interview or something. Like, if he gets interviewed by like, NBC News or ABC News, CNN or something, he's gonna be like, yeah, Hillary Clinton ran a soulless and scripted campaign. He's not going to have the balls to do that. And to a certain extent, I can't blame him, because he knows he would get shitted on big time. Yet somehow when you mention it and then an author or something, reveals it, it's not as bad, I guess. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. This article, apparently this revelation just came out yesterday, so maybe it's it's something that's going to be kind of going to be hashed out and dealt with later, kind of in the coming months, in the coming whatever year, however long. But people might bring it up again and say how I'm sure a lot of Republicans and right wingers are going to bring it up and say, look how little Obama thinks of Hillary Clinton. It wouldn't be a surprise for them to definitely exploit that, just like Donald Trump tries to exploit the DNC screwing over Bernie Sanders. Same shit. So people are going to use that to opportunistically call out. To kind of call out certain, the other side. There's another part here that says, so there's a quote here from Baker. So from, I guess, what is it? So yeah, it's from the book, I guess. It says, so Obama's flabbergasted the country was going to replace him with a buffoonish showman whose calling cards had been repeated bankruptcies, serial marriages, and racist dog whistles. After Obama spoke to Clinton and told her to concede defeat, Baker says the former president and his team put the blame on her for running a scripted, soulless campaign that failed to turn his presidency into a winning message. And yeah, that pretty much, he was served on a silver platter there. But at the same time, Obama's presidency wasn't all that great either. So even though his approval numbers were really, really high, he wasn't a great president when it came to policy. And a lot of his policies led to give us Trump, on top of the fact that Hillary then tried to run on what Obama was pushing for, and then we ended up getting Trump. So Hillary basically took Obama's accomplishments or whatever, didn't make it any that much better, and which then they weren't all that great to begin with, and then ended up flubbing it, and then losing the election overall to a reality star show buffoon. So, reality show star buffoon. But another quote says here, Obama may not have been on the ballot, but it was hard not to see the vote as a personal insult, as he had called it on the campaign trail. Baker writes, "This stings," Obama said. "This hurts." Wow. And then this last part of this article here, it says, the book goes on to describe how Obama tried to maintain a straight face in public after the race, but after meeting his successor at the White House, he went off in front of his former speechwriter Ben Rhodes and seethed that Trump peddles and bullshit. When Rhodes compared Trump to the con men characters from Huckleberry Finn, Obama replied, "Maybe that's the best we can hope for." I don't know anything about Huckleberry Finn, but that's a point well taken, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that's, for Obama to come out and say that, it's like, there's so much truth in that. I totally agree with him. He's totally correct. I wish more Democrats would say stuff like this instead of just like cowering to Hillary Clinton and trying to appease her and trying to make her feel good while pushing that bullshit, Russiagate narrative and talking about how, the Russians, stole votes away from voters, and then, they posted fucking, ads on Facebook, and they're responsible for Hillary losing because of some people saw some ads that were negative about her, as if Hillary Clinton didn't already have enough material against her that could be used by people. So no, it was some, a couple of $1,000s used on ads on Facebook, as if every single person saw that. I mean, what do you think is the percentage of people that saw ads that were posted on Facebook and on whatever, Twitter and stuff, that were posted by by Russian trolls on those different platforms that actually affected people's votes? I know that never happened to me. I already couldn't stand Hillary Clinton to begin with. I was never going to vote for her to begin with. As far as I know, I don't know. I think I know about one of the supposedly Russian posts or something was a picture of like a buff Bernie, and like he was like standing like this or something, and then he's it's like a coloring of Bernie Sanders with like all the gay pride colors. So showing that Bernie Sanders is in favor of gay people. I don't know how that would hurt Hillary, but apparently they said that was one of the ads that was posted by Russian trolls. I don't know what other ones there is out there. I think another one was showing Jesus and Satan arm wrestling or something, and then one person, and then Jesus and Satan were arm wrestling, and then somebody, I don't know, it was showing like, well, are you in favor of Jesus or are you in favor of the devil or something like that? Like if these are the like the ads or the memes, or something, there was also memes, not just ads, but memes and whatever tweets or something that people were posting. Like if that's the best the so-called Russian trolls have, I mean, that's weak sauce. That is weak ass fucking sauce. That is not the kind of shit that is going to even be close to convincing people that they're going to vote for another candidate over the one that they already support. And I also want to say is that I remember there was a CNN reporter that it was the segment they did where the CNN reporter went to somebody's house that was apparently running like a pro-Trump group on Facebook. So like a pro-Trump Facebook group. And this, he was going up to this woman, this old woman, I don't know how old she was, maybe she was in her 50s or 60s. And, she looked she's probably like in Ohio or something. She's kind of your typical white, kind of Trump voter, Republican voter, conservative right-wing voter. And she's like, so what's up? So what are you asking me? And then this guy goes on and say, well, there was Trump memes, pro-Trump memes that were posted on your page. Do you know about this? And they were, this guy was asking her these questions, asking her, do you know about this thing? The woman is like completely blown away. She's like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're saying. Like I've been running this group ever since, I don't know, whenever she was running it since. And why would I post Russian memes on my page? It was just one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. So I just thought that was funny when it came to all that Russiagate stuff and, being anti-Hillary and stuff. So it's like, but that just shows you, it's not so much about being anti-Hillary or being sexist or being not racist, because Hillary's white, but being sexist or being whatever, all that, anti-democratic. It's about thinking that this candidate, Hillary Clinton, should be able to beat Donald Trump and has all the means to do it, has all the money to do it. I don't know, how much was her campaign? $2 billion, $3 billion, all the money that she was getting from fundraisers and donors and all these people. I mean, she had it served to her on a silver platter by Obama. She just had to not screw it up. And Obama remembered, I think if I remember correctly, that his approval rating going into the 2016 campaign, I believe was in like the high 50s, maybe even 60%. He was up there. He had a good, Obama had a very good approval rating going into his thing. So to think that Hillary Clinton would screw that up is just, I can't blame him if he's flabbergasted and pissed off and seething that, Hillary Clinton couldn't beat him, and losing to this, fucking prick, Trump, who had honestly no reason to win when there are so many things that could be used against him, but obviously Trump ended up being able to use all these things against Hillary and used it very well, and even catered to a lot of Bernie voters, a lot of anti-establishment voters, a lot of people that were suffering, that were sick of the system screwing them over and thinking that Democrats were responsible for screwing them over, even if maybe they weren't necessarily responsible. But Obama didn't do a lot to solve a lot of the problems that people were suffering through. And I mean, that's, you got to, a lot of times you're going to vote, in that moment, you're going to vote, based on what kind of problems you're dealing with in that period of time of your life. And you're going to vote for many times you're going to vote for the candidate that you think is going to help you when that other candidate didn't help you. So if Obama did help them, okay, great. They're probably going to vote for who Obama supports. But then again, there were supporters of Obama that voted for him both in 2008 and 2012 that then voted for Trump in 2016. And a lot of those people might end up voting for Bernie Sanders in 2020. You never know. So that's how a lot of times voters can be very, very, bipolar. You never know which way they're going to go sometimes. So I'm totally behind you, President Obama. If you're pissed off at Hillary Clinton, I totally understand where you're coming from, and you have every reason to be pissed off. And anybody that's not pissed off at Hillary Clinton for losing to Trump, I don't know what motivation you have, but you should be pissed at her more than anything. Instead of blaming Russians, instead of blaming Jill Stein, Susan Sarandon, Bernie Bros, all that shit. She lost because she was a horrible candidate, and she should have won a perfectly winnable race that she somehow failed to win adequately, and even, regardless of the, 4 million, 3 million, 3 million votes that she got more than Trump, but she obviously didn't campaign in specific states like Wisconsin, didn't campaign in Pennsylvania and, Michigan and all that stuff. And those are all the states. Ohio, I think, was another one of them, were all states that ended up going to Trump, even though she ended up getting more of the votes from the other states, like California, the bigger states, California, New York, Texas, well, not Texas, because I think Trump won Texas, but all the especially California, where I live right now, she definitely got majority of the votes there for sure. So, but just because you win the popular vote does not mean you win the electoral. You win the electoral college does not mean you win the election. She knew that going in. She should have used the strategy that would actually get people to vote for her in the Rust Belt, in those states that she did campaign in the states with big union workers and stuff like that, places where that jobs were sent overseas and stuff. She obviously didn't do that, and she lost. And that's what you get. All right, guys, so that's going to be the end of this episode of the Progressive Square. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be posting segments, the segments of these segments for this episode later on, and then I'm going to also have an audio clip that's going to be posted on my Podbean site. Podbean.com. The segments are going to be posted on my YouTube page and my Facebook page. and obviously this Periscope, and the Facebook Live is going to be live for you guys to watch if you want to catch up from, whatever has been, for the full episode that was posted. So also, if you could do me a favor and please become a patron. Patreon.com/ProgBlacksmith, ProgBlacksmith. If you could please donate $1, $2, $3, anything you can, it would be much appreciated. And I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for sharing all my videos and everything that I posted on YouTube and, share it on Twitter. I really appreciate you guys. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.